It is our privilege tonight to have the Commonwealth Baptist College with us. They are out of the Clays Mill Baptist Church in Lexington, Kentucky, and they've been traveling around now about 4 weeks, and they've only covered 6,000 miles in those 4 weeks. So they've been down in Texas. You can do that in just a few weeks down there for sure. But we're glad to have them with us this evening. And so I'm going to let them come and sing for us and just encourage us here. And so, ladies, won't you come and sing?
I'm from Edinburgh, Texas. I will be a sophomore in the fall studying elementary education.
Hi, my name is Naomi Davenport. I'm from Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. I'll be a sophomore in the fall studying secondary education.
Hi, my name is Erin Delaney. I'm from Clinton, Illinois. I'll be a sophomore in the fall studying secondary education. And from Commonwealth Baptist College, we are
the Voices of Praise. I am singing since my burdens rolled away. Since my burdens rolled away, rolled away, rolled away, rolled away. Every burden of my heart rolled away, rolled away, rolled away, rolled away. Every burden of my heart rolled away. Every sin has to go beneath the crimson flow. Rolled away, rolled away, rolled away. Every burden of my heart rolled away. I am happy since my burdens rolled away. Have you ever seen the swiftness of a twinkle of an eye? It's here and gone before you realize. Now if the coming of our Lord should somehow catch you by surprise, you'll be left here in the twinkle of an eye. You'll be left here in the twinkle of an eye. What would you think if you should blink and I should vanish from your side? Not in a wink, not in a blink, but in the twinkling of an eye. What would you do if I should move beyond the stars in the sky and leave this world behind me and tell it all goodbye? Leave here in the twinkle of an eye. Sound aloud the warning, Christ is coming in the sky. Make no mistake, the hour is growing late. There'll be no time left to decide. Should you procrastinate right now, he'll save you before it gets too late. He'll save you before it gets too late. What would you think if you should blink and I should vanish from your side? Not in a wink, not in a blink, but in the twinkling of an eye. What would you do if I should move beyond the stars in the sky and leave this world behind me and tell it all goodbye? Leave here in the twinkle of this world behind me and tell it all goodbye. Leave here in the twinkle of an eye. Leave here in the twinkling of an Lost in the dark, lost in my sin. I was alone, I needed a friend. I did not think anyone cared for my soul. Ready to fall, ready to die, on Jesus I called, and he heard my cry. Healed all the pain and hurt deep inside. He made me whole. Now I'm cradled in mercy and covered in grace. Thank God I am saved from hell and the grave, set free by his grace. I wandered in darkness, now I walk in light. I'm washed in his blood, secure in his love, and cradled in mercy. Not of my works, nothing I've done. I'm saved by faith in God's holy Son. Now as his child, boldly I come to his throne. Oh, what a joy I can't describe. He's quickened my spirit, made me alive, set me in heavenly places on high, made me his own. Now I'm cradled in mercy and covered in grace. Thank God I am saved from hell and the grave, set free by his grace. I wandered in darkness, now I walk in light. I'm washed in his blood, secure in his love, and cradled in mercy. I wandered in darkness, now I walk in light. I'm washed in his blood, secure in his love, and cradled in mercy. Cradled in mercy.
As the ladies come on and get ready to sing, it's our privilege to have Dr. Steve Fisher with us this evening as well. I got to know Brother Fisher, I guess it's been about 3 or 4 years ago now. We came out, maybe it's been longer than that, we came out to the National Church Growth Conference out in Lexington, Kentucky, and enjoyed a little bit of time out there, and I met him, and since then I've just been in contact with him, and of course he's been here the last 2 summers with us as the tour groups come through, and I've enjoyed getting to know him over the years, and I appreciate always getting a text from him every Sunday morning, praying for us here, and I appreciate his interest in us, and I'm so glad to have him come through and be with us. And so after the girls sing this evening, Brother Fisher's going to come and preach for us. So Brother Fisher, it's good to see you again. Glad to have you here.
I'm gonna walk right out of this valley, lift my hands and praise the Lord. I'm not gonna let old Satan get me down, down, down. Why should I sit here till I die? Heaven's waiting up a little bit higher. I'm gonna walk out of this valley with my Lord. Now when the Lord let down the hedge on Job to try him, took all his children and everything he owned, but no, Job didn't sit down and cry. He lifted his head up high, came out of that valley, thank God, with a whole lot more. Well, I'm gonna walk right out of this valley, lift my hands and praise the Lord. I'm not gonna let old Satan get me down, down, down. Why should I sit here till I die? Heaven's waiting up a little bit higher. I'm gonna walk out of this valley with my Lord. sit here till I die? Heaven's waiting up a little bit higher. I'm gonna walk out of this valley with my Lord. Why should I sit here till I die? Heaven's waiting up a little bit higher. I'm gonna walk out of this valley with my Lord. I'm gonna walk out of this valley with my Lord. When I think of where I've been and where He's brought me from, and how I found in Him the strength to overcome, I wouldn't want to live a single minute without Jesus in it. 'Cause when I look around, I have no place to run. What about His grace? What about how He came? What about the blood He shed on Calvary that washes sin away? Think of all He's done and how He helps us overcome. How could we ever run away? What about His grace?
If you've been in His presence and you felt His mercy flow straight from His throne in glory to your wounded soul, how could you ever turn your back on Jesus when He died to free us? Ask yourself this simple thing before you go. What about His grace? What about how He came? What about the blood He shed on Calvary that washes sin away? Think of all He's done and how He helps us overcome. How could we ever run away? What about His grace? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. What about His grace? What about how He came? What about the blood He shed on Calvary that washes sin away? Think of all He's done and how He helps us overcome. How could we ever run away? What about His grace? Think of all He's done and how He helps us overcome. How could we ever run away? What about His grace? What about His grace?
Well, preacher already mentioned it. We are from Lexington, Kentucky. Beautiful bluegrass country. That's what it is over there. Hate to say it, everybody knows it because of the horse racing. That's what's going on over there. A lot of gambling going on in Lexington, but everybody comes over for the Art Creation Museum. Whenever you're over in our neck of the woods, we encourage you to come and visit, excuse me, Clays Mill Baptist Church and Commonwealth Baptist College. Our college does operate as a ministry of Clays Mill Baptist Church. Of course, our pastor being Pastor Jeff Fugit. Started in 1999. Our pastor was holding tent revivals with a Christian businessman by the name of Russell Anderson. And as they were leading people to Christ in those tent revivals, they couldn't find preacher boys to be able to start churches in those rural communities of Kentucky. And so God laid it on the hearts of Pastor Fugit and Russell Anderson to start Commonwealth Baptist College. Commonwealth Baptist College was started to train preacher boys, but now over the years, obviously preachers need wives. You agree with that. I agree with that for sure. And so we train educators, missionaries, evangelists, everyone that works through the local church. And so we're traveling the country asking young people to pray about Commonwealth Baptist College. That's all it is. We understand there are other good Bible colleges out there. We don't believe everyone should come to Commonwealth Baptist College, but we like for you to pray about it. Put it somewhere on your list there. And so I hope if you're a parent of a young person that you would pick up some literature about Commonwealth Baptist College. If you're a young person in high school, junior high school, fill out a card there so we can get information into your hands. But we always enjoy coming back. The exciting thing this year is I have Verizon. I actually have 2 bars. I have 2 bars on my phone. It's not bad coming to Piedmont. It's whenever I'm trying to get out and I'm trying to stand on one leg and get a signal for my GPS to get me out of town. And so, man, I feel like I'm in downtown St. Louis now. I have such a good signal here. And so thank you to the pastor, his family. We enjoy coming here. We enjoy coming here, and it's just a blessing. And I think about your church, and I think about your pastor every Sunday morning, and I pray for you all, and I pray for your pastor. Boy, this area needs a good gospel lighthouse, and I believe you all are blessed to be able to have a strong church like you have here and a loving pastor like you have here. Boy, as you travel, you realize not everyone has a strong church like you do. Not everyone has a loving pastor like you do. And we get calls all the time at the college. They're without a pastor. And boy, do you know of somebody? And so it's always you're always blessed whenever you have a man of God in your life who preaches the Bible to you. Well, thank you. I apologize in advance. I'm going to cough my fool head off because I have allergies, and I can't blame it on Missouri. Just so you know, I can't blame it on Missouri. I think it's Kentucky. I don't know. But I tell you, when we went to Texas, I had a Texas-sized cough whenever I was down there. So I was glad. I was glad to be able to get out of Texas. Has nothing to do with the sermon, but you have to understand, I'm one guy traveling with 3 college ladies, and my wife is playing the piano this year. So I'm traveling with 4 ladies. So when I went to Texas, when I'm traveling, my idea of a hot spot somewhere I've got to stop, like if I'm going by Memphis, I want to go to the Bass Pro Shop, right? That's where I'm going. Yeah. I'm in Texas, man, I want to go hunting quail or something like that. We're passing through Waco. And I have to stop at Magnolia Market, all right? Said, man, like I want to look at shiplap on a day off, right? I tell you what, that lady has more cookbooks. I went out and I said, man, how many cookbooks do you need, right? And I saw my wife buying those cookbooks. I said, man, we eat at Chick-fil-A and Cracker Barrel. What's with this? And she said, no, that's for Jenna. This is for Caitlin. This said, so we're in Waco, and just so all of you ladies can be envious of the ladies there, because they were able to go to the marketplace there, Chip and Joanna Gaines. I mean, that thing, I'm telling you, that place was hopping. I couldn't believe all of the people that were excited. I was like, they're silos. I mean, it's just... But boy, whoever did the marketing for that bunch, boy, they did a good job. I need to hire them in my office at the college, that's for sure. Well, thank you for being with us. Take your Bibles, if you would, turn to Joshua chapter 1. Joshua chapter 1. I'm going to begin reading at verse 1 there. I'd like for you to follow along as I read aloud Joshua chapter 1 and verse 1. I want you to think this evening, you know, faith is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Joshua chapter 1, look at verse 1. Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses my servant is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses, from the wilderness and this Lebanon, even unto the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea toward the going down of the sun, shall be your coast. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Be strong and of a good courage. For unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land which I swear unto their fathers to give to them. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest. Whenever I think of chapter 1, I think of it being a call to courage. In verses 1 through 5, I see there is that command to conquer. In verses 6 through 9, there is that challenge to obey. And in verses 10 through 18, I see the counsel from God. You know, as we talk about faith this evening, faith is not just a matter of believing in God's existence. It's a matter of you and I trusting in His promises, and you and I stepping out in obedience, even when that obedience and that faith seems impossible. You know, this evening, I'd like for you personally to consider how your faith in God can transform your life in ways that you never could imagine. Billy Sunday. Billy Sunday was born William Ashley Sunday in Iowa. If you know his story, you know he was a professional baseball player who later became a very passionate evangelist. It was evangelist Billy Sunday who said, and I quote, "Faith puts the impossible into God's hands and then watches the possible come into our lives." You realize that every day, whenever we get out of bed and we place our feet on the floor, we have a choice. You and I, we can continue to suffer the repeated defeats that plagued the Israelites in the book of Judges because of disobedience, or you and I can experience the victories in the book of Joshua that comes by placing our faith in God and obeying Him. And every day, whenever we get up, that's the decision. The decision is ours to make. Take your Bible and turn to Hebrews chapter 11. Would you turn there, please? Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews chapter 11, look if you would at verse number 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Do you see it there? Faith, hoped for, faith, things not seen. Jump down, if you would, to verse 6. But without faith it is impossible to please Him. For he that cometh to God must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. That phrase, he that cometh to God must believe that He is. I must believe that God is God. And because He is God, nothing is impossible for Him. It was evangelist Bob Jones Sr. who once commented, faith is not just believing in God, it's believing God. Notice it says, He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. It's an interesting little phrase because my faith is in a God who wants to bless me. He desires to bless me. Look, if you would, at verse 7. By faith Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house. Here is a man, Noah, who built the ark by faith, as the Bible says, of things not seen as yet. Look at verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, here it is. He obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. Here was a man who didn't have all of the pieces of the puzzle, but his faith was in God, and his faith pushed him past where he thought he could not do, and God blessed his faith. I just want to say tonight, God wants to do big things in our lives, and this requires faith and obedience as God leads in your life and mine. You and I, we can trust the Bible. You and I, we can trust His promises. Why? Why can I trust His Word? Why can I trust His promises? Because we know who gave us His Word, because you and I know who made those promises, and it was God. My faith and your faith is not in a church. It's not in a pastor. Our faith is in God. God is beyond our comprehension. God is beyond our imagination, and God is beyond anything that we could ever conceive. There is no one like the God of the Bible. Great is our God, mighty is our God, and holy is the God of the Bible. And yet, God loves us. God cares for you. God gave His only Son for you and for me so that we could spend all eternity with Him. Take your Bible, if you would. Go to Acts chapter 27. Would you jump there? Acts chapter 27. Look, if you would, at verse 22. Acts 27 and verse 22. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of the God, whose I am, and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God that it shall be even as it was told me. Here is a man that has experienced shipwreck. He's in another storm. Excuse me. He's in another storm. And in these times of turmoil, when the storms of life rage around you and I, it's moments like that in the storm that our faith in God shines brightest. Can you imagine? Put yourself on that ship there with Paul. You got the turbulent sea. It's being battered by the waves there, and he is consumed by darkness. The ship that Paul is sailing on, it's on the very verge of destruction. But amid all of this chaos, Paul stood tall. His eyes were not fixed on the tumultuous circumstances. His eyes were on the unchanging God of his faith. And whenever the sea was howling around him, he makes this declaration. The ship is going to go down, but he says in verse 25, I believe God. What a proclamation from a guy who's worried about his life, but God says, don't worry about your life, have faith in me. In those perilous moments, in this story here in Acts, Paul's faith was not in the ship. His faith was not in the skill and the ability of the sailors, and it was certainly not in his own strength. No, what we see here is Paul's faith was anchored in God, the God who had called him, the God who had sustained him through other tumultuous times, and who had promised to be with him even in the darkest of tempests. I say tonight, there have been times in your life where you thought, there is no way I could go forward, and here you sit tonight. I just want to say, the faith that we have, our faith is in God, and there's no one like the God of the Bible. He is not just good, God is great. He is not merely powerful, He's mighty beyond any comprehension, and God is not just pure, He's set apart in majesty and honor, and that's who our faith needs to be in tonight. God can bring you through the storms of life. Do you believe it? Do you have faith in God? No matter the intensity of the storm, no matter the magnitude of the trial, our God remains steadfast. Our God remains unchanging. His promises are true. His love is unending, and His faithfulness endures forever. Look, if you would, let's go back to Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 11. Hebrews 11 and verse 11. Through faith also, Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Sarah is able to do something she never thought that she could physically do. Why? because with God, all things are possible. How did she have faith in this promise of God? Look at the end of verse, look at the end of verse 11. Because she judged him faithful who had promised. You see, here was a lady who was more than just a person of faith. She had faith in God, and God was able to do what he promised he would do, and whenever he did it, she realized it was God who did it. I wonder tonight, I don't know why I'm preaching the message, but I wonder, are you limiting God by trying to fit him into a box of your own understanding? I know you're like me. Sometimes you and I, we think we're not good Christians because we're tormented by doubts. We say to ourselves, if I was a good Christian, I wouldn't be doubting right now. That's what we tell ourselves. But I want to remind you how the people that we consider faithful Christians had doubts and questions at times. I find it amazing that in Matthew chapter 11, John the Baptist had doubts whether Jesus was truly the Messiah. John the Baptist, he had doubts. In John chapter 20, Thomas, one of Jesus' disciples, imagine the time that Thomas would have spent with Jesus, and he has doubts whether Jesus really rose from the dead. These are good guys, and they had doubts. I think you and I, whenever we have those doubts in our life, and we all come to those times, we got to understand that God is patient. God is understanding with us in our times of doubts. God is willing to strengthen our faith if we'll come to him and we'll ask him. So the question I ask tonight is, what should I do when I want to step out by faith, but my faith is mixed with doubts? Don't miss it. Act on your faith and not on your fears. Act on your faith and not on your fears. Every one of us, God is going to bring us to a point where he wants us to go past our ability, and that's what faith is. You and I, we may have doubts, but God asks us, don't act on your doubts, act on your faith. But how do I do that? How do I do that? Number one, ask God for help. In Mark chapter 9 and verse 24, a father whose son was possessed by a demon called out to Jesus. Notice what he said to Jesus. Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief. You know, it's okay for you and I to acknowledge our doubts and ask God to help us to overcome him. If you're struggling tonight with your faith and your doubts, I ask you sincerely, have you asked God for help in that area? You and I, we got to recognize that we can't solve all of our problems on our own. We need God's help. But it's one thing to say that we need God's help. Have you ever asked God, God, I'm struggling with this. I know what you want me to do. I know you're wanting me to take that step of faith. But God, I've got to be honest with you. I'm struggling here. I say, number one, ask God for help. When is the last time you were honest with yourself and transparent with God about your struggles and challenges. I say number 2, ask God for wisdom. Seeking wisdom and understanding from God can help us overcome our doubts and strengthen our faith. Would you take your Bibles? I'd like for you to see it. James chapter 1. It's a familiar passage, but I want you to take that step of faith in your life. James chapter 1 and verse 5. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. Those 2 words, upbraideth not, means that God does not scold, God does not rebuke a people who ask for help in their faith. Well, I'd like to encourage some of you, your faith is being challenged and you're battling these doubts. I want you to ask God for help with your faith. I want you to ask God for wisdom. God wants to do great things in your life, but you have to have faith in God. You might not be able to do it, but God can do it. One of the great examples of this in our American history has to be Abraham Lincoln. Probably one of the most well-known examples is the story how Abraham Lincoln sought God's wisdom and guidance during the Civil War. During the darkest days of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln was said to have prayed fervently for wisdom and guidance. And it was Abraham Lincoln's faith in God that sustained him through some of the most difficult moments in American history. And your faith in a mighty God should be able to sustain you during your times of doubt. I encourage you tonight, ask God for help. I encourage you, ask God for wisdom. And then number 3, surround yourself with supportive people who have faith in God. We know the story in the book of Joshua, don't we? 12 men went to spy in Canaan, 10 were bad and 2 were good, right? Now, you know what? In your life and mine, there are the 10 spies who just don't believe it. And if you and I hang around the doubters and we listen to the podcast of the 10, you and I aren't going to have the faith to be able to claim everything that God has promised for us. You and I, if we're going to move forward by faith, we've got to ask God for help. We've got to ask God for wisdom, but you and I have got to surround ourselves with people who have the faith like a Caleb and Joshua who say, boys, I know what you're saying, but I'm telling you, God said it's ours. Let's just trust God. Let's move forward. Those are the people that you and I have got to surround ourselves with, because if we don't, we will start acting on our doubt instead of our faith. I want to surround myself with people who say, let's go do it for the glory of God. Surround yourself with supportive people who have faith in God. Pastor Tom Malone, who pastored the great Emmanuel Baptist Church in Pontiac, Michigan, said, faith is not believing that God can, it's knowing that He will. That's it, isn't it? Every one of us are plagued with those times where we say, well, I don't know. Boy, at those times, I've got to act on my faith and not on my doubts. And because I have doubts doesn't mean I'm a bad Christian. It means I'm just like all of the Christians in the Bible who had doubts, but they looked to God and they obeyed God because they acted on their faith and not their doubts. Can you imagine a man like George Mueller? George Mueller is running an orphanage, and he refuses to advertise or take any money. The only way that he is going to do it is, he says, God is going to provide. It was a ministry of faith. He refused to ask for donations. One morning, a large quantity of bread and milk arrived unexpectedly at the orphanage. What happened was, a local baker felt led by God to bake the bread for the orphanage, and then a milkman's cart, that's how long ago it was, broke down in front of the orphanage, and so instead of having the milk spoil, he gave the milk to the orphanage. Time after time, George Mueller, he didn't look for anyone to help him but God. And George Mueller, in his own testimony, says, God never failed him. Now, I'm asking some of you, maybe you're at a point in your life where you're kind of looking at the unknown. You've never been there. Abraham, I'm going to lead you to a place that you've never been before. You don't know, but I just want you to trust me. And whatever God is doing in your life, you want to take that step, but you have doubts. I say, have faith in God. God is worthy of our faith. God is worthy of our obedience. I want to remind you of a simple yet profound truth. God is always with us, even when we doubt. God knows our struggles. He knows our fears. And yet, in His great mercy, He continues to call you and I to trust in Him and to place our faith in His goodness. I wonder, what is God asking you as an individual or you as a family to do? In recent days, as the Holy Spirit impressed upon something, maybe you're faced with a decision you've got to make. And you know the decision you need to make, but you say, boy, I don't know. Don't act on your doubts, act on your faith. And God will reward your faith. Why? He's a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. Our faith is in a great God. And tonight I say, trust Him. Trust Him through the storms. Trust Him during the difficult days. He's a great God. You are where you are today. You haven't been always a great person of faith, but you trusted God when you didn't think you could go forward. And look where you're at tonight. Wouldn't it be a great thing if, as a church family, we said, God has great things ahead for us as a church. Let's look to Him. Let's have faith in Him. And let's see what God can do in us and through us. Let's stand together. Our heads are bowed, our eyes are closed.